Hmm. I guess it's clean now. So, hello everybody. So, welcome to the stream. So, today we are gonna study more into the method and materials by Jack C. Rich. And today, the topic that we are going to discuss and read about is plaster. So, being a visual art student, reading about different methods and materials has always been a fascinating topic for me, and it's also a necessary topic for me because it's a very integral part to know about your materials that you're going to use and study. All right, so now we'll look into our book that you're going to study today, and yeah, sure. So now we are into the stream. Okay, so plaster of Paris. Now let's go over the background. So plaster of Paris, it wasn't always called plaster of Paris. So it's basically gypsum. All right. So the scientific word for it's gypsum. So gypsum is derived from the Greek word gypsos. The use of gypsum was as a sculpture material dates back to antiquity, and if you look into it, it dates back uh, to its earliest use date back to Greece. Huh. And after that we don't find before that we don't find much use of gypsum for sculpture. All right. And the use of gypsum as a material was familiar to sculptures. It has been revealed by the writings of Theophrastus and Pliny. So Theophrastus was the the successor of Aristotle, and he was a philosopher, writer, and he was also an expert in botany. So he's also coined as the father of botany sometimes. And Pliny was also a thinker, and so the use of plaster of Paris gypsum as a material has been revealed in the writings of Theophrastus and Pliny. Pliny's book Natural History, it's its 35th book. It attributes Laius Tratos for the discovery of fashioning plaster cast of statues. So Lystratos also discovered how to take cast from statues, a practice which was extended to such a degree that no figure or statue was made without a clay model. So this statement was given by Pliny, which has been accepted by many scholars, and while plaster negative molds that date back from Hellenistic period have been discovered, this contention completely ignores the Egyptian use of the material. They do ignore it. During the early periods of Egyptian culture, I would say, particularly during the reign of Akh in Athens, parts of the human body or of statues were cast in plaster and used as models. Okay, so it wasn't very much new for them. I mean, it wasn't new only to Greece, but it was also found in Egyptian culture. We can find it in under the reign of Akhenaten, that it was used for parts of different human body or statues that were cast in plaster and used as models. So the familiar cast of faces and other parts of human form were found at El Armira date from about 13 and 70 BC. So the earliest known Egyptian example of such cast is a mask discovered in the temple of the Step Pyramid at Saqqara. And let me tell you more about Saqqara. So where is it? Huh. So Saqqara is an ancient Egyptian necropolis located near Memphis, and it's the capital of Old Kingdom Egypt. So it's likely discussed in this book, the city of Saqqara, in the context of the sculpture and the plaster stuff. All right. Okay. So, huh. It is believed that the death mask of the King Titi of the sixth dynasty, who died about, uh, I mean, the earliest caste of a mask that I'm talking about. So it is believed to be the death mask of King Teti, who died around like 2400 BC. So it's not clear totally that uh, whether he died in 2400 BC. Well, the point is not that, but it is said to be found around that time in the earliest known Egyptian example. So the death mask of King Teti is the earliest known Egyptian example of a death mask. And the art of casting in plaster declined with the fall of Rome. And literature makes no reference to it again until the time of Andrea Verrocchio. So I would say that maybe sometimes when the civilizations decline, a lot of things decline with it. Sometimes art also declines with it. So many practices decline. So in context of India also, if we talk about paintings and sculpture too, so many practices decline. So the progressive art of Khajuraho, the stone carving. So in the upcoming years, it wasn't found that much of same sculptural wonders were created or carved after the time period of Khajuraho temples. So, and not only that, if you talk about paintings, the same case can be said uh, that until the revivalist movement or the Bengal art movement occurred, lot of paintings, lot of things got declined due to the impoverishment and the continuous wars, battles happening in India across the subcontinent of India, and the fall of kings and dynasties. Even the Mughal miniature painting declined after the period of what is Jahangir. Yeah, so that can be said because after Shah Jahan was imprisoned, because Shah Jahan was more into architecture, so it wasn't like the best time period for golden time period for miniature paintings, but yeah, they were still happening around. But when the Aurangzeb took over as the emperor, it completely declined, and it further led to creation of many different miniature schools like Pahadi miniature and all. But we can say that it did decline, and after that, there is no significant Mughal miniature painting which has been created because artists fled to different parts. So historically, if you look at things, so this is a common pattern we can see across all over the world. Whenever a civilization declines, um, the art, which is special, which is the speciality of a particular empire or that era, it also declines with the decline of an empire. So that's why we can say, so that's how we can just say that the art of casting and plaster declined with the fall of Rome, and literature also makes no reference to it again until the time of Andrea Verrocchio, which is around 1432 to 1488. So yeah. Now, who was Lysistratos? So we just quoted about him a few moments ago, and Lysistratos was quoted by Pliny in his book Natural History, book number 35, book 35. So Lysistratos was a Greek sculptor of the 4th century BC. He was the brother of the famous sculptor Lysippus. Lysippus. I'm sorry for my pronunciation because I don't know how to pronounce him properly. There is some controversy regarding the precise nature of his use of plaster. Some claim the practice was essentially one of modeling with gypsum. So we don't know currently, right, that what exactly was he using it for. Uh, all right. So moving on to the next page. So Andrea took much pleasure in making models of gypsum from which he might take cast. He made his molds from a soft stone found in the neighborhood of Volterra, Siena, and other parts of Italy. So the Andrea Verociana, he created molds using soft stone found in the neighborhood of Volterra, Siena, and the parts of Italy, which being burnt in fire, pounded finely, and kneaded with water, rendered so soft and smooth that you may take it into whatever form you please. So let's talk about this part. Andrea therefore adopted the practice of casting in the molds, thus prepared such natural objects as he desired to have continually before his eyes for the better and more convenient imitation of them in his works, hands, feet, the arm, the torso, etc. Um, all right. So, based on the previous text I was reading, so Andrea Virosio utilized soft stone found in regions like Volterra, Siena, which were burnt, finely grounded, which means like they were crushed, all right, and into fine powder maybe, and then they were mixed with water. After that, the soft stone became highly malleable, allowing sculptors to shape it into intricate forms. And huh, so once set, the material hardened, significantly making it ideal for casting entire figures. This process was crucial in Renaissance sculpture as it enabled artists to create precise replicas of their models, ensuring consistency and refinement in their works. The book likely discusses this book I'm talking about. This book likely discusses how Verocchio's innovation in mold making casting influenced later sculptures, and Andrea therefore adopted the practice of casting in molds prepared such natural objects as he desired to continue before his eyes for the better and more convenient imitation of them in his works, using maybe hands, feet, and other stuff, torso also. And artists afterwards, but in his time, began to make casts of the heads of those who died, a thing they could by this means do at but a little cost. Whence it is that one sees in every house in Florence vast number of these likenesses over the chimney doors, over the chimneys, doors, windows, cornices, many of them so well done and natural that they seem alive. है ना? And we are indeed greatly indebted for this to the skill of Andre Verrocchio, who was one of the first to put practice into execution. The what is interesting here now that I got to know that these people in Florence they used to put up these heads all over. I mean, over the doors, chimneys, and so so can we still find it? Hmm. Now, moving on to the chemical and physical nature of the plaster of Paris. So now is the important part. We are going to now that we covered the historical context of plaster of Paris. Now let's go into the chemical and physical nature. Plaster of Paris is one of the most extensively used materials in the sculptor's repertoire. In the sculptor's repertoire. All right, and it is important, therefore, that a sculptor possess an understanding of the chemical and the physical properties of this substance. The material derives its name from the earth of Paris and its surrounding regions, which contains an abundance of parent mineral gypsum, from which plaster of Paris is manufactured. And it is a very important part of the repertoire or the collection or the stock of work skills of any artist, whether sculptor, whether architect, and even painters also. So, for example, musicians. Repertoire includes songs they can play, while a chef's repertoire consists of dishes they can cook. Just like that, a sculptor's repertoire consists of plaster of Paris as its basic material. If you have ever made a sculpture, if you have ever studied sculpture as a student, if you have been enthusiast, you know how important it is, plaster of Paris. So, plaster of Paris, it derives its name from the earth of Paris and its surrounding regions, which contains an abundance of parent mineral gypsum. So, it is derived from that, from which plaster of Paris is manufactured. So plaster of Paris is like, I would say the chemical equation would be CaSO4 and 1 is and half H2O. So sulfate of lime, hemihydride of calcium sulfate, casting plaster, gypsum plaster, dental plaster in addition to specific trade names. Hmm? So plaster of Paris is also known by its chemical equation name CaSO4 with half H2O. And other names are sulfate of lime, the plaster of Paris, hemihydrate of calcium sulfate, casting plaster, gypsum plaster, dental plaster. In addition to other trade names, specific trader names, or trade names. I mean, yeah. Gypsum is occasionally referred to as hydrated sulfate of lime, hydrated calcium sulfate, है ना? So here it is, hydrated sulfate lime and hydrated calcium sulfate, and chemically CaSO4 2H2O. It is also the hardness of 2 in MOH scale. So I hope you all understand what is MOH scale. If you have uh, because if you have studied in the class 10 in the 10th standard, you must be familiar with it. So if you're not, let me explain it to you. So MOH scale is of any mineral hardness is a system which is used to rank, any minerals based on their ability to resist scratching, है ना? Developed by Frederick M. Morse in 1812, it assigns minerals a hardness value from 1 to 10, which means from 1 is softest to 10 is hardest. The scale is widely used in geology and material science to compare relative hardness of different substances. And um, for example, if you want to know if that the gypsum has a hardness of 2 na, in Mohs scale or MOH scale. So talc, the body talc which is used, it is rated 1. So it is extremely soft. Then comes gypsum in hardness 2. After that comes marble, which is like relatively soft and commonly used in sculpture. So it is rated 3 to 4 marble. So first is talc, which is very soft. Then comes our gypsum, which is second in number. Then marble, which is like third or fourth. Then we can say granite, which is sixth or seventh sometimes, based on the hardness. But yeah, it is much harder granite than marble. And then comes diamond. It is rated 10 on the hardness scale of a mineral because hardener because the diamond is the hardest natural material and is used for cutting other stones. And okay, so my charging right now is running low, so let me just connect my charger for a second. Okay, so the substance, which is gypsum, is found in several forms. Alabaster. So alabaster is a fine, white-grained, opaque to semi-opaque, massive variety of gypsum. Alabaster, which is quite soft and can be easily cut or carved. It is particularly appropriate for use in fashioning of small sculpture and statuettes. White spar or satin spar is a fibrous variety of gypsum. Selenite is a mica-like transparent crystalline form of mineral. So now We will search each form of uh, okay. So this is alabaster. Alabaster is mineral rock that is soft, often used for carving, processed for plaster powder. So this is a mineral rock, है ना? Alabaster is used for sculpture, and many varieties of sandstone and limestone are also used for these purposes. So let me show you other photos of alabaster too. Wait a second. I think I did not show. I hope so that I shared this tab. Hmm. So coming on to this tab. So this is how alabaster looks in nature. See, this has been carved and it is used for processing. This is also alabaster. Like you can see. So now let's come to back to our PDF. It has become huh. Now let's search selenite. It is also form of a so selenite is a variety of mineral gypsum named after Selene, the Greek goddess of moon. It is often referred to as liquid light due to its inability to clear energy blockages and promote fluid energy flow. It is known for its healing properties, including. So I won't say that about if it's true or not, but let's just look into selenite. है ना? So this is how selenite looks. I'm not into that voodoo healing shit, crystal healing shit. So I won't don't believe in that shit. So fuck. So just let that shit be. Let's just look into how it looks as a mineral. It's found in nature like this. Let me search selenite plaster. See what the result comes. Selenite plaster crystal hand. It's 100% natural gypsum. So yeah, it's found like that. Now so I think something is up with my tab. Okay, it is. Huh. Let me go back. 151. Huh. And we are back to our tab. Hmm. So, hmm. Alabaster is a white fine grain. So you saw alabaster right now, and what did we did not see? It's the white spar or satin spar, right? We saw selenite. It's a mica-like transparent crystalline form of mineral. Now let's see into spar or satin, white spar or satin spar. White spar. Let me search satin spar. Satin spar is a term for fibrous variety of gypsum and calcite with a silky luster. And so this is how selenite looks. This is how satin spar looks. It's very similar, and it said that satin spar It's a fibrous variety, right? So, hmm. So here, if you can see, we can see that it is very. If you have ever tried to carve any stone, and if you try to carve any random stone, like I did once, tried to do it once, so I found some riverbed stones, and they were fibrous and chippy like this. So if you work in this kind of stone, it would chip in layers. So it's very hard to work in this kind of stone unless and until you're using a machine to carve it. I tried to do it manually using chisel. It was a sand a diamond tool. So yeah, now something is up with it right now. 149. Hmm. So selenite is a mica-like transparent crystalline form of mineral. So several explanations are offered to explain the origin of gypsum. No. Hmm. So several explanations are offered to explain the origin of gypsum formation. Some deposits are thought to have been formed by the changes in existing calcium carbonate beds by chemical reactions occur occur when the decomposition of pyrites liberates sulfuric acid, which in turn attacks carbonate of lime, converting it into calcium sulfate. Hmm. So I guess if you're familiar with it, that if you've studied in school, so in the calcium carbonate beds, which are naturally occurring and found in nature. So it is said that the gypsum occurs when a chemical reaction happens with the decomposition um, of pyrates, which liberate sulfuric acids, which in turn attacks carbonate of lime, converting it into calcium sulfate. This process may cause an evolving gradual change of limestone formation into a gypsum rock. The majority of gypsum deposits, which are widely distributed geographically, are believed to have been formed in another way involving the slow evaporation of seawater. Okay, so the majority of gypsum deposits, which are widely distributed geographically, I mean around the globe, they are believed to have been formed in another way involving slow evaporation of seawater, then increasing mineral concentration resulting as the water was evaporated. When the approximately 75 to 80% of the seawater has been evaporated, the gypsum is deposited. Commercially, gypsum is secured from underground deposits by mining or quarrying. It occurs as a solid crystalline mass containing contaminating silicates and carbonates, and the purity of the substance is regulated largely by the selection of the rock in the quarry or mine. So now let's talk about the preparation of plaster of Paris. So plaster of Paris is prepared by the partial calcination or dehydration of gypsum by heat. Gypsum, when calcined at approximately 350 degrees Fahrenheit, loses about 75% of its water of crystallization and is transformed into CaSO4 1 to half H2O, which is known as the plaster of Paris. And you can see the chemical equation here also: 2 CaSO4 and 2 parts of CaSO4, 2 H2O plus heat leads to CaSO4 H2H2O plus 3 H2O plus 3 parts of H2O, I mean. So the overcalcination of gypsum comminutes the material that no gypsum particles are left sufficiently large to function as nuclei about which the formation of crystals can begin when the plastic plaster mass is ready normally to set. Fine grinding of substance does not appear to have any apparent effect upon the setting powers of a properly calcined gypsum. Underburnt gypsum is not recommended for use in casting. The substance is fairly insoluble in cold water and only slightly soluble in warm water. So, underburnt gypsum, it's typically not recommended for casting because even the casting that we use as sculptors, it's it's processed properly in in the quarries or factories, after which we use it. It's not underburnt because if it had been underburnt, the substance becomes fairly insoluble in cold water and only slightly soluble in the warm water, so it cannot be used properly for the casting and these purposes. The transition point at which the gypsum CaSO4 or two parts of H2O is converted to plaster of Paris between two parts of CaSO4 H2O around approximately 225 degree Fahrenheit, which is 107 degrees Celsius. Hmm. When the roasted powder is mixed with sufficient water to render the mass creamy in its consistency, it recovers one is to 1.5 parts of water it possessed prior to calcination. The mass sets to a uniform inert, wait a minute, and solid mass of substantially the same composition as the original gypsum. So basically, the original gypsum, it's already complete in its own form. But then what we do, that we heat it up around 100, around like 350 degree Fahrenheit. So what happens that all the water which is present in gypsum gets evaporated and it gets calcinated. So when it's calcinated, it gets crystallized. So we get the composition of what is called plaster of Paris. And when we mix it with water, with consistent creamy layer, so it becomes the creamy composition. It really becomes the same composition as the original gypsum when it dries. When it again the heating process occurs. So if the gypsum is calcined at a temperature greater than 350 degree Fahrenheit for a prolonged period of time, the material loses all its free water and water of crystallization and becomes inert. So what do you even mean by it becomes inert? So now we will see Keen's cement is thoroughly calcined gypsum, one of the so-called accelerated plasters from which all of the combined moisture has been evaporated by the means of prolonged exposure to high heat. To this substance, an alum or other salt is frequently added. The product sets uniformly and dries quite hard. Keen cement was formerly prepared by baking gypsum, then soaking it in a solution of alum, after which the material was recalcined. Today's single burning is used. Dry, powder mineral colors can be added to keen cement, which is occasionally used culturally as a casting material. The coloring pigment should be permanent, finely ground, and water soluble. Keen cement is generally poured into heavy fluid state into negative mold. So now let's see into keen cement. All right. Now I'm going to share this tab and we will look how keen cement looks. Okay, so there is a video also which shows the difference between cement plaster, gypsum plaster. Hmm. Hmm. Now let's search keen cement versus plaster of Paris. Let me give it a quick search versus plaster of Paris. The thing is, the book we are reading right now, it's quite vast compared to our knowledge. So now I have this. I'm searching in Copilot right now. Keen cement versus plaster of Paris. These two materials have distinct properties and uses. Keen cement is a hard, dense form of gypsum plaster developed by Richard Wayne Keene in 1838, making it extremely durable and capable of achieving high gloss finish. It is primarily used for ornamental plastering and decorative work. Meanwhile, plaster of Paris is a quick setting material made by heating gypsum. It forms a soft workable paste when mixed with water but hardens rapidly. It is used for molding, sculpting, repairs, but is not as durable as Keen cement. And let's search for alternate name of Keen cement. Alternate names. So maybe what if the white cement is Keen cement? Is Keen cement still used? Okay, so it is still used. Um, the contemporary brand for the Keen cement is. Let me search, look for some video or something. Let's see if we can find a video because there's no specific name for Keen cement I can find. Let's go to YouTube. Let's look for a result for Keen. Wait a second. There must be some video or anything because I really want to look how it is being used. So we can see in this that mixing clean as a self-leveling product. Okay, so we have seen enough of this. Now let's go to our original book and yeah, now Keen cement is generally poured in a heavy fluid state into a negative mold. Now let's talk about the plaster of Paris solubility. To talk about it, so